When Ramadan comes around, everything changes, right? Your whole schedule of eating, sleeping, it's completely flipped. So have you ever wondered what's happening on the inside? What does that do to your hormones, your body's complex internal messaging system? Well, today, we're going to dive right into the science and see how our bodies adapt to this incredible change.
So yeah, what is the real story here? Does fasting throw your hormones into complete chaos, or is your body actually way more resilient than you might think? We're going to unpack all the research, and we'll zoom in on thyroid and reproductive health to see how this whole balancing act really works.
All right, first things first, let's zoom out and look at the big picture. And honestly, the headline news here is pretty reassuring. For most healthy people, the main story is stability. Yep, your body's endocrine system is just incredibly good at keeping things balanced, even when your daily routine gets a total shakeup.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting. It's all about a crucial distinction. See, the research shows that for hormones like cortisol or melatonin, the total amount your body makes over a 24-hour period, that doesn't really change much. But what does change is the rhythm, the timing of when those hormones are released. That whole schedule gets shifted because of the new meal times, new sleep patterns, and that is the real key to understanding how our bodies adapt so well.
And look, this isn't just a theory. It's backed up by major medical reviews. This quote from 2010 really sums up the general consensus. For healthy folks, your endocrine system is basically built to handle this. But, and this is a big but, that word healthy is doing a lot of work there. So what happens when there's an underlying condition?
Okay, so that leads us perfectly into our first deep dive, the thyroid. This is a fantastic example of where that general rule of everything's stable suddenly gets a lot more complicated. Because when you're talking about the thyroid, it's really a tale of two completely different situations.
This table lays it out so clearly. On one side, you've got people with healthy thyroids. For them, studies find no real negative effects on their hormones. Simple enough, right? But then you look at the other side, patients with hypothyroidism, people who need medication like levothyroxine. That's a whole different ballgame. Yeah, most of them can stay stable, but the timing of their medication becomes absolutely critical. And that's exactly why talking to a specialist isn't just a suggestion, it's a must.
And this really hits on the most important point here. Having a healthy thyroid is not the same thing as having a thyroid condition that's being managed with medication. They are two different things. When your whole eating schedule flips during Ramadan, your medication schedule has to flip too. And you can't just guess that. You need a real professional medical plan.
So if you're someone managing a thyroid condition, these are the steps you gotta take. It's super straightforward. It all starts with a chat with your endocrinologist. And you have to do it before Ramadan even begins. You've got to walk away with a crystal clear plan, when to take your medicine, how to stick to that new schedule, and just make sure your hormone levels stay exactly where they should be.
All right, let's shift gears now and talk about reproductive health. This is another area with its own really important things to consider. And just like with the thyroid, the story here is all about nuance. We see some reassuring stability for sure, but also a real need for caution and specialized care in other cases.
Okay, so for new moms who are breastfeeding, the research we have is actually pretty reassuring. What it shows is that the key hormones that, drive milk production, we're talking LH, FSH, prolactin, they don't seem to change all that much. And that suggests that the basic hormonal system for lactation stays remarkably stable, even with fasting.
But when it comes to pregnancy, the whole approach pivots. It's less about stability and all about careful management. Now, to be clear, the data shows that overall outcomes for moms and babies are generally comparable whether the mother fasts or not. But the recommendation is crystal clear. This has to be a risk-managed approach. You absolutely need expert counseling to keep a close eye on things like hydration, getting the right nutrition, and monitoring the baby, especially as you go through each trimester.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, it's that the science doesn't just give you a simple yes you can or no you can't. It's not that black and white. What it really does is highlight that the decision to fast during pregnancy or while breastfeeding is deeply, deeply personal. And it's a decision that has to start with an informed conversation with your healthcare provider, so you can weigh all the factors that are unique to you.
Okay, and finally, to really get the full picture, we have to be honest. We need to talk about what we know, but also what we don't know. Because, good science is all about acknowledging the limits of the research we have right now.
You see, a lot of what we know comes from something called narrative reviews. That's basically where scientists look at a whole bunch of different studies and try to see what the general trend is. The problem is, those studies weren't all done the same way. They might have different controls or different timing for samples, And that makes it really tough to say A causes B with 100% certainty. We definitely need more standardized research, especially when it comes to reproductive hormones, which just haven't been studied nearly as much as, say, blood sugar and circadian rhythm.
So, we kind of end up right back where we started, thinking about the body's incredible, complex hormonal dance. What the science shows us is that, yeah, our systems are amazingly resilient, but it also shows us that one size definitely does not fit all. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. We all know fasting is a personal journey, right? So the real question is, are you making sure your health plan is just as personal?